So as you can see out there, I don't think it's a day to risk opening up the roller shutters and starting to validate the car. I think I need to wait for that wind to die down. So I'll take the opportunity to go through a few stories, you like a few chopped stories. So I'll take the opportunity to share a few stories with you. I know a lot of you like the chopped stories about other dealers and claims that have happened with them. One's come across my desk that I think is particularly interesting. We've got one from a subscriber as well. But the one that is particularly interesting has come via Logistics, who I'm signed up to, and they send you updates of cases they've been involved with. And this one's quite relevant to the one I'm currently having with the Nissan X-Trail, which I went down and saw at Moores yesterday. So this is the 2016 Nissan X-Trail that I sold, I think it's just come up 10 months ago. We put a gearbox in after 4 months. We put a CVT gearbox in it, and now I think it was at 7 months I first got a message to say that she was getting engine management light on. Then I got again at 8 months and told her to take it. Well, I told her to take it to the garage straight away. Then at 8 months, she said that she'd had it checked out and it looked like it was losing coolant. And then at 9 months, I told her to definitely get it in with the Moores guys. And then at 9 months, she actually got it in with the Moores boys. And they've just checked it over and said they think it's a suspected head gasket. And I was discussing in a previous video whether we thought I might be liable for that via the finance company, because the UK law obviously says up to 6 months I'm liable. I have to prove it wasn't a fault at point of sale. After 6 months they have to prove it was a fault at point of sale. And I was arguing that if the car had an overheating problem and had a gasket problem, it would have happened within the first, within the first 6 months. It would have cooked itself straight away. And it's quite possible this lady's continued to drive on an engine management light for coolant. Well, just so happened that I opened up my Logistics account. I'll get it in front of me now so that I can just make sure I get all the facts right on it. So the story was that a customer bought a 9-year-old Volvo and very shortly returned, I think within the first month, to the dealership with a coolant light on the dashboard. And the coolant level was checked and it was just a little bit low, so it was topped up. It took another 6 months for that warning light to come up on the dashboard, and the customer took the vehicle to a third-party mechanic who did the same thing, topped up the coolant because it had only lost a little bit. But a month later, they must have had the same problem again, because the customer then took it to the Volvo main dealership, who told her that she needed a new engine due to, presumably, I would say, probably a head gasket fault. There was a fault with the cylinder head, so presumably that was the head gasket. So what the customer's then done is put in a claim against the dealer. So they're now at, how many months later are they? Just let me double check that again. So I think they're now at about 7 or 8 months. They've done 10,000 miles in that time, so 10,000 miles between getting the car and this reappearing. So she's put a claim in and it's gone to court. So and the dealer's decided to defend himself in court on the basis that the fault didn't exist at point of sale, in as much as it's entirely possible that the fault that appeared within the first sort of month of her having the car, and the fault that's appeared sort of 7 or 8 months down the lane and 10,000 miles on, could be completely unrelated on a 9-year-old vehicle. Now this is a case where I would expect, as a general rule, for a judge just to see in favour of the claimant, because that's what tends to happen. But no expert, the Volvo dealership hadn't been able to provide any categorical proof that the fault would have existed at point of sale, which of course they wouldn't be able to do. The cylinder head, again, if it had been a head gasket at the beginning rather than just losing a little bit of coolant for whatever reason, or just through natural use, if it had been a proper cylinder head, blown cylinder head, she would have cooked the engine a long time before doing 10,000 miles and being sort of 7-8 months later on. So the Volvo dealership wasn't able to prove that the fault did exist at point of sale. The consumer hadn't been able to provide enough evidence, and don't forget that after 6 months the emphasis is on the consumer providing the evidence that existed at point of sale. So the judge said that he agreed that it was entirely possible, although he was sympathetic with the customer, it was entirely possible that the head gasket had failed for a reason completely unrelated to the initial one. And that's a good thing to see. It's a good thing to see that a judge is sensible. You've got a 9-year-old car. Obviously Volvo would have bailed on it at 3 years with their warranty. You've got a 9-year-old car that had a small fault at the point of sale that was seemingly resolved because the car went on for another 6 months and did another 10,000 miles before there was an issue again. So it's completely unrelated. And we have to realise that a dealer cannot be responsible for a car for the same sort of period of time as a manufacturer is when the things are brand new and 10 times the price. So that was a good thing to see, and I thought I thought it was a good example of a good example of the issue I'm having and how I think that it's fair to say that I wouldn't be responsible for, again, because I didn't even have an initial issue with the vehicle I sold with any cooling issues. The initial issue I had, well, it wasn't even an issue, it was after 4 or 5 months, was the gearbox, which were resolved, and it's now been, I think, like 7 or 8 months before she initially found out that it was losing coolant, and I say she's potentially driven it for another couple of months since. So I think that's pretty open and shut case, but again, I guess it would depend on whether we had a judge as reasonable as that one or not. Now, completely different example has been sent to me by one of our subscribers, and it covers that thorny issue of really old cars being sold as is, without warranty, trade sale, part exchange to clear, which we hear so often. So another reminder for you that a dealer can sell you a car without a warranty. That is perfectly legal. We can sell you a car of any age without any warranty at all, because all sales fall under the Consumer Rights Act, which covers you for 6 months for the car for being fit for purpose as described and of satisfactory quality. And if you do have a fault within the first 6 months, the dealer has to prove that it wasn't there at point of sale, as we just discussed. Just a little caveat on that, it isn't any fault. Again, it's fit for purpose as described and of satisfactory quality. So older car, your stereo starts playing up, your air con starts playing up, electric window switch starts playing up, all those kind of things. They may well be considered just fair wear and tear for a vehicle of that age. So this is the trouble, this is where it's a very grey area. Gearbox goes, engine goes within the 6 months, then you could, even on an older vehicle, you could say, oh, satisfactory quality, probably doesn't meet it, fit for purpose, probably doesn't meet it, but the fact that you can't connect your iPhone to it, to the USB port, or the aircon's not quite cold enough for you, or it doesn't blow on your feet but it does blow on your face on the heaters, you know, again, it does depend on the age of the vehicle and how much you paid for it. But this is the grey area where you end up having to potentially, if someone's really going to push their luck with it, end up in court about it. With this situation here, I'll bring it up on my computer, we'll go through it, and because I've asked a subscriber and he's happy for me to share it. As always, more than happy to help you guys. If you are having problems with ideas, please do email it to me though, rather than call, because it can end up taking a lot of time over the phone. And obviously I am just one guy working on his own in the unit. But Rob sent me an email, and he titled it "Dealer Ignoring Me" on the email, and he said that he wanted to run something by me. So he recently decided to downgrade and get a cheaper car because he wasn't really driving as much as he was, which makes total sense to me. No point in having a lot of money tied up in the motor if you're not really using it that much. So he's looking for something small and cheap, and he found a car advertised not too far away. It was a Peugeot 207 on an 11 plate with 125,000 miles. Full service is up to 85,000 miles. And the car was, and this set alarm bells ringing for me straight away to be honest, £1,000 at a dealership. £1,000 at a dealership. Now, if you're buying a car like that, a 2011 Peugeot 207 from a driveway for £1,000, fair enough, because you're taking a risk. The guy that's selling it to you, the lady that's selling it to you, as soon as you drive off, has no comeback. But a dealer can't sell you a car at that price. That's easily a 1995 car. Sorry, I'm talking over the wind. A 1995 car at dealership. Not for the reason necessarily the car is effectively worth 1995, if it makes sense, but to give yourself enough margin to cover the risks of selling a vehicle of that age. Because as we know, VAT on that alone would be potentially 200, 250 quid. Your Auto Trader advert, 50 quid, so you're into 300 quid. You're going to pay tax on the income from it. That could be another couple £100. If you've done any work on it at all, repairs wise, even just picking it up, you might be a few hours into it, and no one's going to have gifted it to you, so they probably paid, £1,000 in part exchange, £800 in part exchange for it. So the leftover margin isn't going to be worth the risk of that car potentially having a serious issue within the first 6 months. So anyway, that set alarm bells ringing for me straight away. But he was buying it from a garage that had it advertised as being AA approved, which by the way means absolutely nothing. I'm going to tell you that straight. Absolutely nothing. I decided I wanted to become AA approved at one point early on because I thought it would give people more confidence when buying cars from me. And do you know what the process was? I emailed them and said I want to become AA approved. They rang me up and they said, do you sell the cars with less than 6 months warranty? And I said no. Do you offer extended warranties? Yes. Do you have a business premises? Can you send a picture of it? Yes. And that was it. I was AA approved. They didn't come to the premises, no spot checks, they sent me out the pack. They just wanted my £100 a month. So AA approved means squat, guys, don't worry about it at all. Anyway, so that's my opinion on it anyway. I'm sure others might have their own opinion on it. But just as a consumer, if you see that, that just means that they've got enough cash to pay AA £100, £150 a month. Doesn't mean they're any better than anyone else. Anyway, so he decided to actually have the car delivered to his home rather than go and pick it up locally. And he paid it up for it. The car arrived with its V5, its MOT, its service book. It was as described, it was clean and tidy, started and it drove well, he was happy. So again, just for a bit of clarification, because he's had that delivered to him, he's also got another whole set of rights over and above his normal rights, which is that if he isn't provided with details of how he can return that car, then on distance selling rules, then his return rights start at the point he's given them. And we saw that case with a chap that we kept getting Teslas for a year and then handing them back, where the dealership hadn't provided him with information on how he could return the car. I think, is it within the first 14 or 30 days? He hadn't given, if they haven't been given details on how they can do that, then that clock starts at the point they are given them. So it's 14 days, isn't it? It's 14 days. So when you get a car distance delivered to you, you've not been on site to look at the vehicle, you can return it for any reason within 14 days. If you don't like the shade of blue it is, if whatever, you can return the car, which is why I don't like doing it, because I think it's just too risky. And you are due your full invoice back. So if there was a delivery charge on there for say £300 to have it delivered to you, you're due your full invoice back. So the dealer also has to eat the delivery on it. Just not worth the risk as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure it works for bigger dealerships, but I couldn't eat the cost of £300 delivery because someone's decided that, you know, going off tangent a bit, I had a conversation with a friend Jamie of mine the other day who'd sent a car out to a customer, a Ford Focus, and they said that when the car arrived to them, they took it around for a few days and just decided they didn't like Ford Focuses. So he had to have the car picked up, taken back to him, but they decided they wanted a Polo GTI that he had. And they'd have that delivered. So he delivered the Polo GTI to them. They ran that for a few days and decided they didn't like the MPG of it. So it was returned again and they decided to buy a car elsewhere. So 2 lots of delivery, 2 lots of prep, mileage on the cars, everything. So you can see why I do not want to get involved in it at all. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's the distance selling rules being used from Amazon for buying a pair of socks being applied to 15 grand product that, you know, can get damaged. Mileage, you know, decreases its value. Extra owners decreases value. It's just not worth it at all. Anyway, back to the story. So Rob's had his car delivered. He's happy with it. He hardly used the car for the first week. Then he drove it around a bit, and an ESP light flashed up on the dashboard a few times. And it refused to start a few times. Now, if any of you know Peugeot 207s, you will know this is quite common. I imagine someone like Royston might be in the comments already saying what might be up with this car. But he put it back in, the key started and drove it around again. No light on the dash, no problems. But then he drove it again at night and it cut out on him again. He had to do the process again of switching it off, switching it back on again. Dash is lighting up and cutting out. And this happened a couple of times. He managed to get it home. So he now contacted the dealer. He sent them an email. He says a very polite email just saying the problems he's having, and he got no response. So a few days later he called, phone was engaged, didn't get any answer. Now fast forward, he's had a car 12 days and he hasn't had any answer at the dealer, and he's messaged me to ask me what the score is. I said to him it sounded like the body control unit was bad with it, and at a 1K that dealer probably has got 0 margin in the car, so I'm not surprised he's not answering the phone to them, but that he probably is entitled a refund. He then got back to me quite shortly after and said the dealer had actually got back to him and emailed him and told him that cars under £2,000 are trade sale and sold with no warranty. So, can he do that? Well, yes, he can sell a car without warranty. That is absolutely legal, as I said before. Calling it a trade sale means nothing. What he might mean is he's selling it via trade sale terms, it has no warranty, but trade sale is completely different, because a trade sale should only be used, that term should only be used on when a vehicle has been sold from one trader to another trader, or from a business to a business. So I can sell from me to, say, Theo at Bowen's garage, trader to trader, with no warranty, no comeback, no consumer rights come into play. I can sell from me to Bob the builder who needs a van, and again, that doesn't fall under the Consumer Rights Act because it is a trade-to-trade sale. So it is legal to do that. It's also legal to sell, but you can only do it with people that are actually business people or are car traders. So that's one set. You can also then sell to a consumer without warranty, but you can't call it a trade sale. So there's two different things there. He quite rightly said as well, the car he bought, the website he bought the car off of, said specifically that all cars come with 12 months MOT and 3 months of warranty. A invoice for the car says nothing about no warranty and no trade sale. So if you weren't offering a warranty, you definitely would want to put that on your sale as well. So he says he's going to have to report him to AA. So where does Rob stand with this car? Well, as I said, they can't sell it to him trade because he's not a trader, so that's out the window. They can sell it to him without a warranty, that's fine. But the sale still falls under the Consumer Rights Act, and because the guy delivered it, and Rob didn't see the car on site first, it falls under distance selling as well. So he's got 14 days in which to reject the car for any reason at all, and under his consumer rights, he's got up to 6 months to reject the vehicle or have the vehicle fixed, as it's not fit for purpose. So again, to complicate things even further, within the first 30 days, he doesn't have to accept a fix at all. He can just reject the car and he can send it back. After 30 days of having the car, the dealer has one opportunity to repair the vehicle with that specific fault. So Rob's options are to reject the vehicle under Rob's got all the cards here basically. He can reject under the Distance Selling Act, he can reject it under the first 30 days Consumer Rights Act, and even if it fell outside of that, he could get it fixed within the first 6 months because the fault's appeared straight away and it makes the car unfit for purpose, because Rob's not saying my electric window doesn't work, Rob's not saying my stereo doesn't work, the car physically is cutting out on him and leaving him dead in the road. So he's bang to rights with that. So what would I do with Rob if the guy keeps ignoring him? Well, I would write to him rejecting the vehicle officially. I'd probably have the vehicle dropped off to him, but I'd also send a letter and an email. I'd send a letter via recorded delivery and I'd send an email rejecting the vehicle under the Consumer Rights Act, but also probably adding as well that you're also rejecting it within your distance selling rules as well. The only caveat I will add to this is don't expect the dealer to sell you a car for £1,000 and repair anything that goes wrong on it, because he's not likely to have the margin to be able to do it. Dealer's fault for selling it. How would I have sold this vehicle? I sold it to him spares and repair, and I would have insisted that the vehicle was transported off site. So I'd have him come and look at the car, and then I'd either get Adrian to drop the vehicle to him or get him to sign off to say that he's going to have a transporter come and pick it up. And as long as I get him to sign to say he's not going to use it on the road until it's made roadworthy, that kind of thing, I would be covered. But I couldn't just write sold as seen, I couldn't just write trade sale. I could write no warranty, but it'd still fall under the Consumer Rights Act. So the only way for us to actually sell Rob that car without any comeback at all would be spares and repair. But I have to be careful even then that I didn't give any opinion at all on what I thought might need to be repaired on that vehicle. I've got the Jimny up for sale on eBay at the moment, and I'm not answering any of the messages that are coming through asking me questions on it, because I've put in the advert, this vehicle with spares and repair has to be transported off of site. The fail list for the MOT is available on the Gov site, so please make sure you're familiar with that. And I am not offering any opinion on what repair that, because I don't know what other repairs that vehicle might need, on what it might need. And I'm not going to answer any of the questions, and that's not because I'm being difficult, it's because anything I say could be held against me later on. You've got to be so careful in this game, guys. You've got to be so careful in this game. Anyway, so hopefully that helped you. I know it can be a little bit confusing, and as I've said many times before, I think that it does need looking at. It's very complicated as to what should be expected of a £20,000 car you've bought that has a problem at 4 months versus what should happen with a £2,000 car you've got that has a fault at 4 months. There's just no clear black and white for it all. It's all left to interpretation. Oh yeah, sniff the comments are there. I am growing out my Father Christmas beard. So thanks for watching as always. If you do have your stories, like saying that you need help with, or you've just got interesting stories you want to share with people on the channel, don't forget to bung me an email at CGCars. I will put a link in the video description down below with the email address there. Thanks for Rob for getting in touch, and I'll see you on the next one.